When we are decluttering our home, we will undoubtedly come across things that are just no longer useful. No ifs or buts, we just aren't going to use them again. In this podcast, we're going to talk about 10 things in your home that it's finally time to let go of.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here are your hosts, Ingrid Jansen and Leslie Spellman.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Leslie. We're delighted you're here to join us as part of your decluttering journey. So whether you're brand new today or have been listening to us for ages, we want to say thank you so much for being here. It means so much to us that you're here to listen to and support us while we talk all things decluttering and organising.
We'd love to help more people with their quest for a clutter-free home. And our podcast is a fantastic way for people to be inspired to take action. We have a favor to ask. If you like what you hear, be sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your podcast player, share us with your friends, or share your thoughts on the podcast by leaving a review. Hello, everybody. It's so good to be here. And Leslie, it's a 10 Things episode. We like it, 10 Things.
We do like a 10 things. And this one, we're delving into the depths of our home to things that have been kind of hanging around for a while. Those things that maybe are last decade or the decade before that, or maybe the decade before that, or even the one before that. We see them all the time, don't we, when we're in homes? And so we just thought that we'd give you a little reminder of some things that just are no longer going to cut it in modern life and a modern home.
Exactly. And we probably have mentioned one or two of these in previous podcast episodes because, of course, we come across them. But making this list, we were like, yeah, they're still here. People have still not decluttered these. We need to remind everybody about these things.
No, because the problem is sometimes when things are old, they become a bit sentimental and a bit nostalgic. That's the problem. So we're going to say get rid of some of these things. And some of these things you kind of wish that you had seen from 50 years ago. So are we saying to get rid of them or are we not? I think there are some things that definitely need to go, I think. And so
yes.
Let's dig in.
I know. And with the first one you suggested, I'm a bit like, oh.
Well, have you got one? Don't say what it is. Have you got one?
I do. But it is on the, I'm not going to lie, it is on the hit list of things that is probably on its way out.
Is it still in use? We're like building it up now, aren't we? Is it still in use?
It is. It is.
Yeah. Well, if it's still in use, then you don't need to get rid of it. It's when it's unplugged. And we need to come clean and say what it is, right?
Yeah. Number one on the list is a landline telephone.
Yes. So you're still using one. But I mean, I don't know your number, for example.
Yeah.
You never give me
that is a good thing, Les.
And have you ever, if somebody asks you for your phone number, do you ever give that number out?
To certain people.
Like who? Like who?
Like my mum has got that phone number.
Yes, of course she has.
It is on the website of my other business. My phone number is there.
And do you want people ringing on your home phone onto your business?
Yeah, but I've got it put through to my mobile.
Yeah, well, that's different, right?
Yeah.
You could just give your mobile out, couldn't you?
Yes. Well, that's what I normally do. When it's client things, I always give out my mobile. But
and
yeah.
Do we think then that landline phones are becoming obsolete?
Yeah.
We're in a transitional stage, aren't we?
I think
some people are like, no, I literally use my landline phone every day. And if that's you, then there's no problem with that. It's if that landline phone is still maybe plugged in but never rings or in a drawer.
Yes. And you know what? And this is when you came up with this suggestion, I had to laugh so hard because literally yesterday I had my mom on Zoom. So I speak to her every Sunday, to my mom. And then my sister sometimes comes as well. And we have to chat. And she was actually was not happy because she's like, yeah. And I tried to ring your sister on her landline, but she never picks up. But I think she said it's broken. And It's just like I'm happy because my mom is still from a generation that rings a landline. You
Yeah.
know?
I think the thing is, it's because you can do it for free across the internet.
Yes.
So, like, you're not going to encourage your mom to ring internationally from Holland to England on a landline phone.
Exactly.
Because however you do that, it's going to cost you money. Even if you get a good deal with like international dialing and all that kind of stuff, you can literally do it for free on your Zoom or on FaceTime or whatever that WhatsApp call in or whatever you do.
Yeah.
So why would you then go to a telephone? You do sometimes need a telephone. You need a landline, don't you, for what do you call it? Broadband sometimes.
Yeah.
So you still need a landline, but you just don't need, or some people don't need the actual phone itself.
Yeah.
If it's never used.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm going to say is get rid of the landline phone if it's unplugged and you never use it.
Yeah. I think that's a good shout, Leslie, because we find them in drawers, don't we? And I mean, I feel a bit nostalgic because I still remember in my parents' living room, you couldn't even call hands-free. You had to sit in one place because, of course, the earpiece was connected to the phone. I mean, our younger listeners are probably going, what on earth is she talking about? Google this. Google this.
I know what, even suppliers and things, they don't want you to give them a landline phone because they know that it's not attached at the hip to you, right? So there's a good chance that they might go to voicemail or whatever.
Yeah.
So let's say a landline phone is up for debate, depending on how much you use it. Shall we concede that, Ingrid?
Yes, I agree. So let's go to number 2 then. Number 2 are A to Z maps or, what would you, atlases?
Street guides, maybe?
Street guides. Yes. I mean, we all had Google Maps in an app on our phone. There's very few people who still walk around. Even I don't do this anymore, right? I know I am.
Sure? Are you absolutely sure?
Well, maybe if I'm visiting somewhere for the first time on holiday or something, you get these little lovely leaflets. But otherwise, no. I mean, you just use your Google Maps, don't you?
What do you mean? Like when you're visiting someone for the first time on holiday, you get a lovely leaflet.
With a little tour with a walking tour or something like that, right?
So you're saying you would still potentially use a map if you were on a tourist trail?
Yes.
That's not an A to Z of London, is it?
Exactly.
That's a different vibe.
I even don't have this anymore. I do have one thing, Leslie, and that is the atlas that belonged to my grandmother because it's a sentimental item. But the normal atlases, gone.
Are you sure about that? Because I'm sure that we've done a podcast since we started our podcast, and you told me when you go to Holland, you still use an atlas.
No, there's 2 or 3 in my car, yes, in case the sat nav suddenly comes out, because we do the back roads and things like that.
So you've got 2 or 3 in your car.
Yes.
Sometimes I wonder why I'm a professional organizer. Sometimes I wonder definitely why you are. So, we're waxing lyrical about what to get rid of, and then you come clean and you say you've got 2 to 3 in your car.
Yeah, but it's like
one as a backup.
Yeah, but one is from France, one is from the Netherlands. I mean, we do a lot of driving, remember? You fly everywhere.
And what would you do, though? What would you do? So if you sat nav conked out, you didn't have an atlas in the back of your car,
I would probably do maps. I would probably do maps. But I mean, we do, like when we go on holiday in France, we do a lot of the little back roads, and it's nice.
We don't have those on satellites.
They do. They do. But to find your bearings and to kind of, it's like, I must admit,
we're going to declutter you from the last few decades. That's
I must admit, me and my husband do looking like maps. I mean, my husband is even more crazier. He's got a couple of maps from Ireland that are still, but they're more nostalgic, I think. But we like maps.
Right, Ingrid. Can we just get this clear now? Are we actually going to find any in this list of 10 that you've agreed to?
Yes.
That you actually don't have?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Well, I'm going to allow you to look down the list that we've got and pick one out that you definitely don't have.
Yeah, I got that. I got it.
Like what is it, number 8?
No. So just to be clear, you have no landline telephone and you have no A to Z anywhere. Not in London, nowhere. Not in your car, not in the flat, not in your house, nowhere.
No.
Wow. Okay. Maybe we should have done a different list, Leslie.
Okay, let's go on to number 3 and let's keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best that Ingrid does not have this in her house. And we're going to go for a collection of things. I'm pretty sure she'll have one of them at least. But anyway, we're going to delve into stationery, right, Ingrid? Because what we see when we're working with clients in their homes is there's still stationery is kind of a useful thing that in your back of your mind, you always think, oh, it's going to come in at some point. It's definitely going to come in. And you're a little bit loath to get rid of it, but there are some stationery items that we just don't really use. I'm not saying nobody in the entire world uses them. I'm just saying in general, they've been usurped. Is that the word?
Yeah, I think we found a couple of things, didn't we? Like things like correction fluid, like Tipp-Ex. We don't really use a lot of envelopes anymore. You know, the treasury tags with the little green string with the plastic thingies on the end. The bulldog clip. I probably have 1 or 2 bulldog clips, but not like boxes and boxes full. And I even thought, we'll still have like these desk organizers. I mean, I do have a little pen pot here because this is my desk and upstairs, and a lot of people kind of need a pen that hits, so I have a little pen pot, but I don't have like these old-fashioned desk organizers where you can put in pencils and pens and a lower tray for like pencil sharpeners and things. I think that's quite old-fashioned, isn't it?
I'm just looking to, I definitely don't have one of those. I think the thing is really that time's moved on, and as most of our what was paper-based life has moved to be digital, that doesn't mean to say that we don't print stuff off. But so thinking about the correction fluid, for example, if there was a problem with it, we would just reprint it, right? We're not going to use Tipp-Ex to sort it. Do you think it's called Tipp-Ex everywhere in the world?
I don't know, but I've always known it as Tipp-Ex. I think it's just a brand name, isn't it? It's like Coca-Cola. Is everybody thinks when they think about cola, they think about Coca-Cola, but Coca-Cola is a brand name. Same with like
I feel like Tipp-Ex might be a bigger brand than, a smaller brand than Coca-Cola. not quite as readily across the world. But I hear you. Yeah, probably. But I don't know. But tell us. We would love to know, do you have Tipp-Ex in America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia?
Wherever you're listening, tell us.
Wherever you're listening.
We mentioned envelopes in this list, Leslie, but you do have a couple of envelopes, right?
I think it's the volumes, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the volumes. And I'll tell you what you don't use very much these days is those window envelopes.
Correct.
They use them.
Because I was like coming clean about the fact that I still have some envelopes left. I'm like, I'm going to be told off for having envelopes in this house.
I mean, you can have some. I think when it comes to stationery, it's not necessarily about eradicating these completely from your life, but it's looking at the volumes that you had when you were working back in the 90s or whatever.
Yeah.
When things were very much paper-based and going, I just don't need these volumes anymore because they're taking up valuable space. And so, yes, I might need a few treasury tags. I just don't know. If we were sending a 40, 50-page document, we'd send it by email. We wouldn't be printing that off.
No.
And these treasury tags, I like to keep things reinforced, aren't they? Same with the bulldog clip. Desk organizers, we don't have that much apart from pens anymore that we need next to our desks and computers.
Yeah.
Now, never say never, because there are some people who will love all these things. And so this is like anything in decluttering. There's no one size fits all at all. You're entitled to have in your home whatever you want, whatever. And if you're using it, then keep on using it. Do you know what I mean? But if not, we're just asking the question so you can have a think about it, because these are nice, easy things to get rid of when you get to them. And we've done it many, many times with clients where we look at a stationery drawer and it's a very satisfying cull, isn't it, Ingrid?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Well, you know what a nice cull is as well? Our next item on the list, Leslie, number 4. Okay, here we go. Now, I have a feeling we're going to get listeners who are going to be upset with us about this, Leslie. I don't know why, but I'm like, woo, we might get a couple of emails about this that people are going to go, what? But we wanted to say VHS players, stereo players, cassette players, and the cassette tapes and the VHS tapes. We know they're still out there, but realistically, do you still? I think the problem is the tape. I mean, I know that, of course, there's a whole revival in like vinyl, isn't there? But everyone's like, oh my gosh, vinyl, and maybe the cassette tape is going to come back. And I'm like, the cassette tape is disintegrated in the last 30 years, right?
Yeah, I think it's that. It's the tape, isn't it? That's very unlikely to come back. I never say never. We don't know. We didn't think vinyl was going to come back, and it did.
Yeah.
But I think that these are big. So, like VHS tapes, for example, they're big, bulky items.
Yeah.
And people are very, very rarely watching them anymore because it's so easy. We're at least two, if not three generations further on than that.
Yeah.
Now that we stream stuff, we download stuff, and we've got subscription services and all that kind of stuff. And so we really have typically moved on to something that's much easier and much more readily available. And so we don't need these things anymore. Now I'm going to come cleaning with and say I do have a VHS player in my house.
Do you?
Yes.
The one thing I did not. Where is it?
It's in my basement. And so it's there because I still have we're still in the process of converting over some of our old like camcorder cassettes and stuff like that. And sometimes you need it I'm sure we could find a workaround to do it. But yeah, it's still there. So there you go.
Wow.
You impressed?
No video cassette here in my house.
She's all proud.
I'm feeling all
now.
smug now. Listeners, I'm all happy that I found something that I do not have. And now my husband's going to listen to this episode and go, "Oh yeah, Ingrid, we've got it." And I'm like, "No, I'm sure we don't. I'm sure we do not have this."
And if we do, whatever you do not tell Leslie. It's between us, our little secret. Right. Yeah. So I think it goes without saying. Depends again if you're watching things, and some people have got things, you've got to be really careful as well if you've got wedding videos and things like that, which a lot of us have. Have you got some other way of watching those things because you don't want to take that out? Of course, as I said, there are workarounds. There are people that will sort that. There are people that will put it onto digital, all those kind of things. And so you can find alternatives. And if this is taking up valuable space in your house, then maybe it's time to let it go.
Yeah.
But people are very precious about videotapes because they hold lots of sentimentality in them. Because a lot of times they are things like wedding videos or films that we love or films that were very coveted but when we bought them. And so there's lots of sentimentality with VHS tapes. And so sometimes to make yourself feel happy about what you're doing, you need to go through a process of going, okay, I'm going to potentially buy the DVD or make sure that I've got it somewhere in my downloads or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So you need to remember or write a list of what you had or something like that. So sometimes there's a kind of interim step, isn't there?
Yeah. I think I'm going to confess, Leslie, I've got one cassette tape.
Oh, here we go. Why are you saying that now? We've confessed.
One. No, but it's a sentimental item. It's actually because my husband was in this underground little band when he was in secondary school. And that's their recording of them playing and singing in we're like probably talking 80s here. That's
really cool. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah.
But what you need to do as well, you see, with these things is you definitely need to preserve them. And, video cassettes are not great. So I'll be getting that converted over into something that's a bit more digital. But
no, it's a tape. It's a tape cassette. So, but same idea. You have to make sure you convert it.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same. We used to have these like slides.
Yeah.
We call them dias. In Holland, we call them dias.
Yeah, they're just called
slides.
Yeah, that's when they just call them slides. Yeah, but they're actually typically really good quality, those slides. Do you know what I mean? And so, but there's loads and loads of companies that'll convert those slides over.
Exactly.
But then, where's the barrier with getting rid of these things? Because we get nervous about sending these things off, which typically we have to do. We have to send those off through the post, which can be a little bit flaky sometimes. And we get nervous about that. And that creates a barrier to us getting the job done. So there will be people locally to you that can do that as well. So if you're nervous about the whole sending things through the post, find someone local to you to convert those over and enjoy them. I mean, that's the thing. We need to be able to enjoy these things. It's so important.
Yeah. Exactly. But so let it all go. We don't really want to do a stereo from back in the 80s, do we? We've got all these amazing things that we can listen whatever we want from all over the world.
We can. I mean, in rock choir, Ingrid and I are in rock choir, which we love and wax lyrical about all the time. One of our new songs is "Video Killed the Radio Star," right? So when did "Video Kill the Radio Star" come out? Like 81, 82, something like that.
Yeah.
And is it like a worldwide song?
I would say so.
You think? So it definitely made it to Holland.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew it when we started rehearsing it. But it mentioned the VCR, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it mentions VCRs and all that kind of stuff. So it's got me thinking about that. But yeah. So
I thought I wasn't going to like the arrangement, Leslie, but actually it's a really fun song, right?
Yeah, really good. I think did I put it on the Facebook group? I think I did, didn't I? Because I sang it a few weeks ago at Eurovision. It's really good.
Yeah.
I really like it. But we're not here to talk about rock choir.
I know. Before you know it, we're going to be singing it together. So I'm not going to be tricked into singing "Video Killed the Radio Star." So let's go to number 5.
Before we go on, though, it would be quite fun to tell this story, right? So a few weeks ago, we were doing a talk for the Association of Professional Declutterers and Organisers, and so we were about to go on stage, whatever, and we were like, we're kind of not really nervous, but a bit nervous, right? And so, and Ingrid was stressing out, as Ingrid always does 5 minutes before we go on stage. This is where I'm the calm one for once in my life, and Ingrid's not. And so she was stressing out. We were both in the toilets, and the toilets were completely empty. So we went in that, then we started singing like rock choir songs together. I'm in one cubicle and Ingrid's next door. So we were like, and we're both singing different harmony parts at rock choir, don't we? And so, yeah, we were singing. What were we singing? What was that?
So I had like the music in the toilet. So,
Right,
so it's not like, so, and there's like, oh, and I was like in there by myself thinking, oh, there's the Rockwire song. And it's like, oh, let me just sing along. And then suddenly I heard a second harmony part. I'm like, Leslie's next to me in the toilet. And then we hear the door again and somebody going, wow, nice singing.
We thought we were on our own. There was someone else listening to us singing. And then someone goes, oh, are you practicing your speech? Like, literally, we go on the stage and start singing. That auditorium will be empty before we know it. It'll be, this is a private matter. But anyway, we need to stop talking about singing. But that was quite a funny thing that happened.
It was. I love to sing. I sang on the bus the other day with a couple of rockies. We had a big concert and we were a bit giddy after our concert. It went really well. So in the bus on the way home, we went all the way to the back of the bus. We're like the naughty school children. And the 4 of us did like a 3-part harmony. And then this couple left the bus and went, nice.
Anyway. Okay, we need to get to number 5.
Number 5, yes. Suitcases without wheels. I mean, that is really, you can just you don't want to do that anymore when you go on holiday. You have a suitcase with no wheels. It can go.
It can. I've got to tell everybody about you and your suitcases, though, Ingrid. All these things are just popping into my head as soon as you say them. So we went to same conference, a couple of weeks ago, and Ingrid came to my flat in London before we went off. It's literally packed as much as I would pack to go on a 2-week holiday. We're going for 2 nights. Well, what have you got? Yeah, I've got this and I've got that. So, there's no capsule wardrobe, or is there? It's like pack the entire contents of your wardrobe.
Yeah, I do not travel light. This is very worrying. There's a lot of things I'm quite good at, but traveling light is not one of them. It doesn't matter. 2 days, a week, same amount of suitcase.
No, exactly.
With wheels. I have no suitcases without wheels in this house.
And what about, can we extend that a little bit further to suitcases that are quite heavy? So we need to take it a stage further, right? So it can't just be suitcases without wheels. We really need to think about lightweight suitcases, because I'm sure it's the same right across the world, but you've got a limit to how much weight you can have in a suitcase when you're traveling. Unless you're really rich, like Victoria Beckham, and then you can have as much as you want, I guess.
Yeah, then you can 36 suitcases, all like in the same branding with your initials on there.
Yeah, I bet they don't have wheels,
No
wheels. I bet they've not got wheels, right?
No.
The fancy suitcases.
No.
But anyway, so it's really important to think about the weight of the suitcase. And so if you've got suitcases that you have replaced for more lightweight suitcases, you're never going to go back to the heavy suitcases because you've got an alternative. But suitcase is just one of those things that you always think they're going to come in, right? And you're a bit loath to get rid of them.
Like, I have like a nice Delsey one. They were really, I remember buying them like in the beginning of the 2000s, and they were really good quality. They were really expensive.
You mean like the hard shell one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So nice. And I'm like, I remember how much they were.
I know, but people People in houses do like to use suitcases for storing stuff.
Mm,
And we're not really big fans of that, are we?
yeah. Yeah.
We prefer things in a box rather than
Yeah.
a suitcase, don't we?
Yeah.
So it's another way of trying to
Yeah.
keep hold of the old suitcases
Yeah.
and stuff.
Can
But
I can I
anyway,
can I
go
can I
on.
go on one more tangent, Leslie, before we go?
We've done a lot of tangents
I know,
today.
I know, I
This is a
know.
lot of tangents
I
today.
know, I know. So recently I've had solar panels installed on my roof. And the guy, or there was a couple of guys here, and one of them had to be in my loft. And of course, my loft is boarded, and everything in there is in boxes with labels on it in zones, right? And the guy he went up the loft ladder and went, blimey, this is amazing. This loft is boarded, it has lights, and wow, it's very well organized. And my husband was like, yeah, yeah. Ingrid's a professional organizer. Everything's in boxes and labels. He was like, wow,
I
it's
know it
very
does look nice. It
impressive.
does look nice. You did a full walkthrough of it for all our members, didn't you, Ingrid?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
exactly how you did it.
yeah.
It does look very nice. I'll give you that.
Yes, yes. But no suitcases without wheels to be seen. So let's go for a break and then we'll come back with our next 5. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Well, I hope you found the first 5 of our list very good, or hopefully at least we made you laugh a little bit with all of our
Oh, we
crazy.
hope people are still here. They're here for decluttering and buys, not anecdotal stories from Ingrid and Leslie.
Or maybe they're like, well, I've completely checked out because I've got all these things. And what do you think? I'm going to declutter them. That's possible too, Leslie. So quickly, let's move on to number 6 then. We have to stop doing all these.
We're going to be
tangents.
sensible. We're going to be sensible now.
Yeah, we have to calm down a little bit. Right. Number 6, old-fashioned light bulbs. And what I mean with that, I don't mean like light bulbs that have a screw top or twist top or anything like that. But a lot of the light bulbs these days are LED and they use a lot less energy. But a lot of people still have got the old-fashioned light bulbs that absolutely, you can see your electricity meter kind of run crazy when you plug in a light with an old-fashioned light bulb, right? It's just not smart.
No, exactly. Smart. And a lot of people have moved from LEDs to smart bulbs
Yes.
as well. To be fair, haven't they? They probably still are LEDs, but they're also smart bulbs, which are a different thing again. So, yeah, Steve's got a smart bulb in the flat. So I went to the flat and he's like, hey, Google, turn the light off. I'm like, really? Are we really? Are we really doing this? You know what I mean? Just get out of bed and turn it off. So, but it's quite cool, though, to be fair, to have a smart bulb. To just make it definitely. So I'm not sure it should be in the bedroom there at the flat because Steve could get out of bed and do it. But, it's interesting. So everything moves on so fast through generations at the moment. And that's what we're talking about. So what would we do with these light bulbs, though, Ingrid? Because they're expensive. People are a little bit like, oh, well, they might come in because you can still use them, right? If you wanted to, if you were nervous about if you came unstuck, sorry. And so what we're going to do with those light bulbs when we get rid of them?
Yeah. Leslie, I think if you would have asked me this question last year, I would have said, oh, just use them up and it's all fine. But now with like the energy prices, it's like, crikey, you need to replace as many bulbs as soon as possible because you can I know the investment to a newer LED or smart light bulb seems a lot, but the way the old ones go through energy is really cost more money, I think, in the long run. So, but what to do with the old ones? Well, I would probably try to give them away, maybe on Olio or Free Cycle, because maybe there are other people who are like, well, I can't afford new light bulbs and I have still the old-fashioned ones, and I'd rather do that than let them throw it away. But I mean, I was in the recycling center yesterday, and they've got a whole crate for light bulbs. So I recycled, I had some broken ones, so I recycled them.
I think it's just LED light bulbs that have to go into recycling. So you use those old light bulbs. I think you can throw those away into general waste. I don't think you can recycle LED light bulbs into general waste because of some kind of metal that's in them or something.
Yeah.
So I think, you've got to be careful now with light bulbs, where I think that before you could just throw them away if they were finished, but you can't anymore. But yeah, I would do the same thing. I think it's up to other people to make a decision about whether or not they're willing to make the investment still, if you want to call it that, into old-fashioned light bulbs. And
Yeah.
so I would definitely think they're useful to somebody. So I would offer them out on Olio, and but get them out of your house if you've definitely made that transition over to LEDs or smart bulbs. There's another or halogen. Is that the other one? Halogen,
Yeah.
LEDs and smart bulbs. So.
Yeah.
And so along the same lines, we're talking here about technology and things like that. Our number 7, and this kind of pops into my head, is, and I'm always a bit nervous when I see it in people's houses, is like, electric curling sets, heated rollers.
Yes.
I would be nervous about the electric, putting something right close to my head that was really, really old. Would you not? She's looking a bit clueless now.
I know. No, I'm thinking because I think it really depends. Like some of them have like used electric curlers and rollers for like every year, every day for the last 20 years, and they know they're fine. I think it's more when we find them somewhere dusty in the back of a cupboard and we're like afraid to plug them in because we don't know if we're going to kind of upset the whole electric system in the house. I think that's the difference, isn't it? I think it's when it's regularly used or when it's a newer set. I mean, I've got an electric curling set that I use once per year, but I've got the straighteners that you can also use to curl your hair. So, and now I'm ready to let the other set go because it makes no sense.
They're not from the 70s. I know you talk about
No.
electric curling set. They're not from the 70s or 80s, and that's the kind of one that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't even think they were electric. They used to like change colour. Like, I mean, they are fascinating to see, to be fair. But they used to kind of all be stuck on these little things, and then the colour at the top used to change when they'd gone to the right temperature and stuff.
Yeah.
Like now our straighteners go on, and within 2 seconds they're they're at the right temperature.
Yeah.
These used to maybe have to put them on for 20 minutes before they'd like heat up. But like old electric blankets as well. I'm always a bit nervous about those as well.
Yeah, me too.
No, yeah, I'd be like, oh, maybe it's time for a change, because it's not that much to change over an electric blanket, is it? And I think that probably there's going to be efficiencies as well with the new electric blankets. And I would be worried about having something that was old next to me.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's not in the list. That's not.
I know electric blankets is not in the list, but a very good one, Leslie. A very, very good one. So we can definitely. That's our secret number 11 again. Electric blankets that we're like. But I think it's mainly when the plug looks a little bit dodgy or the wire looks like has this brown cover. You're like, from which decade is this item?
I know, exactly. It's you'd be a bit nervous about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know we snuck a little one in, but let's go on to number 8, Ingrid.
Yeah.
I bet you've got one of these. Bet 100% that you've got one.
I do not. Ha ha! Encyclopedias. Yes. No longer in my life. I think when my grandmother passed away, she had one. And then I kind of had it in my house for ages. But that's been decluttered like a decade and a half ago at least.
I think as much as from a nostalgic perspective, and it's going to be a kid's. I mean, I'm never going to use an encyclopedia since I was like 15, but you kind of like to think that it's particularly if they're really nice ones. A lot of encyclopedias are really nice, aren't they? And I think the nostalgic part of you wants your children to use an encyclopedia, but it's just so rigid and restrictive in terms of the information that's in it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the thing. And kids are never going to use an encyclopedia.
No.
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
Not a chance. They're just going to go straight onto the internet and find the information at the fingertips much more easily.
And you can find so much more and so much more up to date and so much more detailed. I mean, we used to do homework with encyclopedias, Leslie. Or go to the library and find the encyclopedia there to do your homework. I mean, it's a whole different world.
It is a different world. But I suppose, there are some that are very nostalgic and probably full of great information. So I'm not talking about the Encyclopedia Britannica, 75 volumes, which I suppose is probably very useful, but more of a kind of kids encyclopedia that I mean, when my kids were growing up, my eldest is 27, definitely would have bought them an encyclopedia.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
So it's not that long ago. I would say it's probably, it'll be all to do with the internet, right?
Yeah.
Whenever the internet came, we know properly. which was probably mid 2000s until it came into all of our lives kind of with a vengeance. I know it was before that, but I think that's probably when they started to tail off.
Yeah.
And so look at those encyclopedias. Are they worth it to you? Are they worth the space that they're taking up? Because they're typically really big. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of books in our lives that we keep for sentimental reasons, but you need to look at actually, would you prefer to have 15 novels instead of those 5 encyclopedias on your shelf? Really think that through and think about whether an encyclopedia is what you need in your life right now.
Yes. Yes. Number 9, Leslie. We would like you to have a look at your tools. For example, have you got tons and tons of different screwdrivers, but do you now have an electric power tool, an electric screwdriver that you can easily whisk stuff into the wall with instead of going, yes, let me actually get like a muscle ache because I tried to screw something in the wall. Well, I've got an electric screwdriver. There are so many things now that there are power tools, that are tools that you can do multiple things with that we used to have all these different tools for. Can you do a bit of a clear out? But this is a tricky one though.
Woo! I mean, you know for a fact that you've got things that are not just power tools that could probably go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is, I think, one of the things that I am not in charge of in this house is tools. That is my husband's domain. Because he is amazing at DIYing and fixing stuff. So I'm always a bit like, this is why this whole tip run from yesterday was like, I think I need to do a tip run. And he's like, there's nothing here in this garage. I went with a car full of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think, but I think again, it's something that people are typically quite nostalgic about
Yeah.
tools as well. Often they've been handed down through generations.
Yeah.
Something quite nice about seeing a wooden handled screwdriver that's been around in the family for 20, 30 years, that maybe your granddad probably, could be grandma, but more likely granddad, these days. And so I think it's nice to see those as well. But as with everything, when you're decluttering, is that stopping you from having the things in your life that you do want to have? So like we spoke about before, what would you prefer, 10 encyclopedias or 15, 20 novels? You have to make those choices if you're compromised on space.
Yeah.
And so sometimes to be able to be more organized and have just the tools that you need that are going to get the job done for you, perhaps we need to offload some of the old ones. There are loads of charities and stuff that will take old tools as well. So there are nice outlets for these things that you feel that they are going to somebody who's truly going to appreciate them.
Yeah.
But do look out for those as well, like what they call like tools for men, or I mean, it's kind of some sexist thing about men's tools.
Men's sheds or something like that. But yeah.
I'm sure there are equally women around who can use these tools as
Definitely.
well. And I'm sure there are men. What is it called? It's like some kind of macho kind of.
Yeah, I think it's called like a men's shed or something, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Men in sheds, or
maybe we'll pop that into the show notes when we find out what it's called. So, and that's probably just a UK based thing, I think, but I'm sure there will be equivalents in the country that you live in. And we find ourselves at number 10. We've definitely calmed down a little bit in the second half of this podcast and hopefully started to make a little bit of sense, Ingrid.
Yeah.
I think some people prefer when we don't make sense, if I'm being truly honest. But it might be 50-50. So I'll give you a 50-50 podcast. Some sensible, some ridiculous. Here we go. Let's go for number 10.
Yeah, the last one on our list are laptop bags. This is very interesting because, of course, we used to have... We're giving away a lot as freebies as well, right? You would get a laptop bag when you would in work and you would go to a conference or you would go to somewhere and they would give you a laptop bag, or you would buy one. They were expensive. And now laptops are so small, you can just actually put them in your backpack or in your purse or in your handbag. It's so easy.
Yeah, you don't see anybody typically hanging around, do you? If we were doing this podcast 10 years ago, it would have been about getting rid of your briefcase kind of scenario. But now it's laptop bags because that was next generation. But I think there are definitely laptop bags still out there, but they're very, very different to the ones that we're talking about, which are those big chunky ones, because laptops used to be really chunky and used to have to be protected really well. So they'd have like big rigid sides and things like that. And so do look at whether or not you've got any of those laptop bags hanging around. Because what we typically do, even if we've changed a laptop, might go, that might come in that bag. And then we shove it somewhere with all the rest of the suitcases and things like that. And then we forget about it. And then 10 years later, we come across it and go, geez, that's an old clunky thing that I no longer need anymore. Or you may no longer be working and might not need to carry your laptop or your computer from place to place. So think about that. Think whether a laptop bag is useful. And of course, laptops change sizes all the time.
Yeah.
So, that's what we've got to think about. So we're going to go laptop bags for number 10.
I know, Leslie. I had a complete flashback a minute ago from my dad. When he used to be at work, he had a briefcase.
Yeah.
With a brown one, with the the click click that you open the things to the side, and then and then and I've always been, and then this one empty lunchbox came out every day.
Oh, like Mr. Ben. Did you have Mr. Ben in Holland?
No, I don't think so. No,
did you not? Such a great thing. And Mr. Ben used to go to work every day. And then he used to go into like a changing rooms and then change, and then become like a spaceman or a scuba diver or whatever. Used to love Mr. Ben. I'm sure anybody who's like my age or maybe older will know Mr. Ben in the UK, obviously. So, back into nostalgia.
I know.
So, what are you going to get rid of that you've got?
The electric curlers.
Okay, you're going to get rid of the electric curlers.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Not convincing you about the landline telephone.
No.
In a nutshell.
No. Right. Well, listeners, you need to tell us, what are you going to declutter? We hope we've brought some lightheartedness and fun to this episode. But then, of course, we've made you think. What of these 10 things are you thinking? Yes, I have that in my house as well. Maybe it's time to have a look at this because, we want to clear some space. We want to get some space in your house. And these are great ideas to make a start with. So let us know in the show notes, declutterhub.com/251. You can leave us a comment. Tell us what you're decluttering. We'd love for you to tell us. And thanks so much for being here. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.